All Dogs Go to Heaven was an interesting entry in Don Bluth's filmography, but here's the plot. It centers on a dog named Charlie, who formerly ran a casino business alongside his partner Carface. Following Charlie's escape from the dog pound, Carface breaks up the partnership, seemingly in fear of Charlie getting caught again, and grants him half the casino's earnings. In reality, Carface wants Charlie dead. First, Charlie gets intoxicated and led down to the end of a ramp where a car, pushed by Carface, runs him over. Charlie gets sent to heaven and steals the watch representing his life. He then winds it up to send him back to the mortal world. Once that watch stops again, Charlie is doomed to eternal damnation. Until then, as long as the watch is still running, he'll be impervious to death. Upon his return, Charlie meets back up with his friend Itchy, and they rescue an orphaned girl named Anne-Marie from Carface, who is using her to rig the casinos because apparently she is able to communicate with animals. How that's possible is never explained. Anyway, Charlie starts his own casino business, unbeknownst to Carface, by using Anne-Marie's fluency in her communication with animals to win bets on horse races and such. But at the same time, Charlie has made a promise to Anne-Marie to feed the poor and find her a family, which he hasn't been doing because of how selfish he is, straining the relationship between the two. That's the basic gist. You can already tell what the film's message is going to be. It's especially carried out in the film's ending, which is definitely an emotional experience. It hits the notes just right, and the story itself is easy to follow. However, it's also pretty screwed up for a children's film. You see dogs gambling and chugging on alcohol, already mentioned the lead character getting drunk. And there's even an entire scene that's a dream about Charlie in hell. That had to be a very traumatizing childhood memory. The final cut of the film does not feature the scene in its entirety. It was cut short to avoid the risk of a PG rating. Pretty effective way to work around the ratings in 1989, but there's no way that could possibly work today. It's hard not to mention this film without talking about Judith Barsi, who did the voice of Anne-Marie. This was the last time she was ever involved in a motion picture, because about 15 months before the film officially premiered, she was shot by her homicidal father at the age of 10. The film's director, Don Bluth, was so heartbroken by the news that the character's design and mannerisms were based on Barsi in real life, a kind-hearted soul who deals with many struggles. The song, Love Survives, which plays at the end credits, was dedicated to her memory. The songs in this film are really catchy tunes, especially You Can't Keep a Good Dog Down, Let's Make Music Together, and this calypso tune called What's Mine Is Yours, a cute little song about sharing. As for Let's Make Music Together, let's mention that Charlie is singing alongside an effeminate alligator. At this point, we've already established that animals can only communicate with the same species, but Anne-Marie can somehow talk to all animals, so why can Charlie and King Gator understand each other? Also, King Gator would have eaten Charlie if it weren't for Burt Reynolds' beautiful chords. That's just stupid. How often does this film demand you suspend your disbelief? I could do that to an extent, but if Anne-Marie's ability to speak to animals doesn't make you crack, I'm not sure you would crack at that. This moment with the alligator certainly would. It helps for the climax, so whatever. I know, it doesn't sound like I care for this movie much, but I actually do. The premise is good, the animation is great like in many Don Bluth films, the songs for the most part are catchy, the characters are nicely put together alongside some great acting talents. But it does get hindered by stupid moments just a little bit. Again, it's not film destroying, it's just brain teasers. With all that in mind, I just find this to be a decent movie. It's not an animated classic, but it has its charm that's strangely fitting in the works of Don Bluth. The film was released the same day as Disney's Little Mermaid, November 17th, 1989. Before this, Disney was not releasing as many animated projects as before, and what they did release was not as spectacular. Don Bluth was winning out with his features, starting with The Secret of NIMH. This time around, Disney has turned the tables. The Little Mermaid is cleaned up and left All Dogs Go to Heaven with limited box office reception. While All Dogs was nominated for the Youth and Film Award for Best Family Motion Picture, Adventure, or Cartoon, it lost to Little Mermaid. Despite its lack of success in theaters, the film found further success when it was released to video. It made way for a sequel, which was released to theaters as opposed to direct-to-video, a TV series that ran for 3 seasons, and a holiday special that is yet another adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. There are so many! Thankfully, that holiday special was the last we saw of the franchise. It should have just been this one movie, because while it's not a masterpiece, it's good enough the way it is.